Namaste and welcome to another edition of Live, Love, Engage. And we are coming to you live today, as we do on Wednesdays, live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And I also want to welcome those of you who are listening to this as well. And I am excited about today's guest because he's written a bunch of books, and the one that I just read is really, really cool. And I'm going to bring him on right now so you can meet him. And then I'm going to tell you all about why I have Mr. Alan Klein on Live, Love,
I
Engage.
I'm so glad you said the word cool and not awesome.
I know. I was thinking that in
I
particular because
almost saw that coming.
yeah, I was deciding, and then I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And you'll understand why when we get to talking here a moment. So let me introduce you to Alan. He is known as Mr. Jollytologist and Ambassador of Light, and he shows people how to use humor and positivity to deal with life's not so funny stuff. And he's also an award-winning professional speaker, a TEDx presenter, and as I mentioned, he's an author of several books: The Healing Power of Humor, You Can't Ruin My Day, Embracing Life After Loss, and The Awe Factor. And that was what we were, and there it is. There's a copy of it. That's what we were referring to, is that when we were talking before we started today's broadcast about how awesome is one of my catchphrases, unfortunately. And Mr. Klein mentions that it's a bit overused phrase, isn't it? Or
Yeah,
word, I should
yeah.
say.
Everything is awesome.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a song in a Lego movie, I think, that had that?
Oh,
I think
maybe.
there
Oh,
was.
yeah, I think you're right. There
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
song. Yeah, everything is awesome.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get more into that in a minute. But first, I would love for you to actually share with our audience just a little bit about how you got into the work that you're doing, and being able to be an author, and really highlighting humor and positivity. So you share with
I
our
will in a
audience.
moment, but as we were just talking about the word awesome, I realized everything may not be awesome, but everything is filled with awe if we want to
Oh,
see it that way.
oh, I like that. Yes.
Yeah, just came to me as as you were saying that. So I just had to share that because I hadn't thought of that before either. So
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad I'm glad that came to you because I like
yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
because that
everything
is
is
so important, isn't it?
that's really, and I think when people are saying awesome, they're saying that in a way, but it is overused. But
Mhm.
everything is definitely filled, and that's what the book is about, that showing readers that everything is filled with awe, but we've got to stop and look and see it because
Mm.
it's there,
Yeah,
but it's us to find it.
yeah,
So how did
absolutely.
I get into this work?
Yeah.
It actually started many years ago. My wife had a terminal illness and passed away at the age of 34.
Oh, wow.
And she had a great sense of humor. And it was the time of Norman Cousins. He was healing himself, he said, from humor, laughter. And I realized looking back how important during the 3 years of her terminal illness, how important laughter was and humor was for us. And after she died, I gave up a business I had and went back to school to learn about therapeutic humor,
Mm.
because it helped me so much to, it didn't cure her. It didn't make her loss go away. But what it did, it helped me get a different perspective on it, which is what humor does. And so from then on, I realized a couple of things. One, that we need to enjoy our life because we don't know, like my wife at 34, we don't know how much longer we have to live. Even when we're young, things happen and we may not live to, 90. So to enjoy our life. And the other thing is to be positive in life because it's much more fun. You know, it's like, and I got this from my dad also. He was always so negative. He was the kind of person where the glass is always half empty.
Mhm.
You know, when we would go somewhere, we'd have to park as far away in the parking lot from where we were going so that no other car would park there and maybe scratch his car when
Oh
they
my.
opened their door. Things like that.
Mm,
So I also learned from him the opposite of how to live. And my mother was very joyous, but my father wasn't. And so
mm.
start combining all those things and just start Healing Power of Humor became a big hit. It's now in a 40th something printing.
Wow.
And so just start writing about positive things and trying to make people's lives a little better.
Mm.
Show them
Yeah.
that there's more to life than our challenges, and we can get through those, and they can teach us a lot perhaps, and just lighten up.
Well, I like that, and I also know that in today's world that there's so much stuff going on, that there's a lot of things that people have to complain about, shall we say, and I can relate to your dad because my mom, God rest her soul, was she could find problems anywhere. And it was she was definitely more of the glass half empty at times, not all the time. But what would you say to someone who, looks around at the state of our world today and say, "Well, how the heck am I ever going to be positive about everything that I see that's going on?"
Well, yes, the world is difficult. There's COVID, there's now mpox or whatever they call it recently. There's war, there's famine, yes, there's floods, there's climate. There's always been challenges. I grew up in World War II
Mm,
and going through that. And there's a Thought and Wilder play called Skin of Our Teeth, and it's about the Antrobus family, and they go through the plague, and they go through several wars, and they go through the dinosaur age, and finally, the end of the play, it's that they survive it all.
mm.
And we get through stuff. Somehow we are strong human beings, and we get through stuff. So, what would I say to people who are, focus on all of that is yes, that's there. And yes, you can work to alleviate as much as that as you can or deal with that. But the fun stuff, the awe stuff is also there. We said at the beginning, it's not so much awesome, but it's the presence of the awe that's there for you to see it. You I was just thinking of that. Sometimes in my workshops, I show a sign in a laundromat that says, "When the machine stops, remove all your clothing." So you could see that sign as two ways, right? But there is the humor is there if you choose to see it. So
Mm,
the humor is there, the awe is there. We can talk about that in a moment, but it is all around us. And when we're focusing on the negative, we don't see the positive. We don't see the humor or the awe.
mm.
So it's a training. I think it's a way of training yourself of, when you wake up in the morning, what kind of day do you want? To set your intention. By the way, I have a TED talk about intention. So if
Mm,
anybody wants to know more about that, but a lot of stuff happens to us because of our intention. What are we going
absolutely.
to focus on?
Yeah.
So I would tell those folk, put those things aside, try putting them aside for 2 minutes and see how that feels. And
Mhm.
look for the more positive stuff. It's
Yeah.
there. It's there. You have to find it.
Absolutely, and that's the beauty of it, is that we do have a choice in how we get to live. We don't have to live by default. If you don't like what's on television, turn off the television.
Right.
So,
Right.
and and you can, and I like that, setting the intentions, because I do make a point of that, or try to make a point of that, as saying, what do I want to, how do I want this day to be?
Yeah.
And so I think that's so important.
Yeah,
Now,
and you just the key word too is choice.
mm,
I was on a mini retreat last week at my daughter's house. They're in
mm,
Hawaii, and I was watching the house, but I was all alone. It was very quiet. It was 8 o'clock in the morning before I had my breakfast, and I went over to the radio to turn on the news. And I stood there for a moment and I thought, I don't want to hear the news. If something major happened, I'll know. Someone will tell me, right?
yeah, that's true.
And I went and I meditated for 10 minutes.
Mm,
And it felt so much better than listening to what's mostly negative news.
yeah,
Again, choice. It's really, because in my own house, I just automatically turn on the radio. And here I
mm,
was in a retreat kind of setting. And so somehow I had more of a choice that I'm now doing in my own house, but realizing I did not have to turn on the radio. I had that
yeah.
choice.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's such a great thing, that you can, now you were at your daughter's house having a retreat, but I think you could even choose to have a mini retreat in your own home. Maybe you decide over the weekend, I'm going to, yeah, not turn on the news, and just spend some time in quiet, maybe go spend some time out in nature, and because that is such a way to restore your soul, and restore your sanity, and help you to then maybe go out and experience a little wonder. So let's
Yeah.
let's let's talk about that a little bit, because you mentioned that a little bit of wonder can make a big difference in your life. So can you expand on that a little bit?
So you just said nature. Nature is the number one, according to researchers, generator of awe and wonder.
Mm,
So recently, a study was published. They had two groups of people, mostly older people, 60, 70, 80. Um, I should say younger people because I'm in the 80s. But supposedly older people, 60, 70, 80, and two groups of people, same size group, and they told both groups to go out and for a walk in nature. And then they took one group aside and they said, when you go out, try to find some awe and wonder. And
mm,
what amazed me about this study was they asked them 15 minutes a week, and they did it for 8 hours. So it was only total over 8 weeks, 2 hours was the whole study. And then when they came back, they asked the group that hadn't told to find awe and wonder in their walk. It's called an awe walk
mm,
exercise. That group that were not told to find awe, were much more negative. One woman said, I kept worrying about the trip I'm taking next week. I'm not packed. I still have to buy stuff. And the other group, the ones that were told to find some awe in their walk, they said had more positive emotions. They felt happier. They felt connected to nature and other people. And this was only 15 minutes a week.
mm.
So, yeah, nature's incredible.
It certainly is, and I did something similar. I was actually on a retreat, last year, and we did do that. We were out in a park, and we were, told to just spend a few minutes, and look around, and see something that would really, yeah, capture our attention. And I'm not sure if she used the word awe and wonder. I almost said "wah," putting them together there. But it was cool. It was just to be silent and
Yeah.
present and see
And,
what there
people
was
think
in
that
nature.
to find awe, wonder, you need to go to Niagara Falls or the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
And the researchers have found you do not, that a walk in the park, is
Mhm.
fine. Your backyard garden is fine. Even another study, and this is interesting, a picture of an awe nature scene that maybe you actually experience. You look at that, it will bring back that moment of awe
Mm.
that you originally had when you took that photo.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't take much is what I'm saying.
That's for sure. Uh, I'm gonna ask you, questions about that. So why would someone what I guess what would be okay, let me rephrase this. Let me start. Why would someone want to do this? What do you think would be? Because let's say they're like, "I don't know, it's just I'm too busy, and I don't know about this seems silly." I mean, other
Right.
than, what the studies have found out, are there any other, you think, benefits to it?
Well, I'm not a scientist, so I rely on the researchers, but again, I mean, I just gave you one, but also and this really amazed me, was an awe thing for me. Is one of the studies shows that finding awe and getting more awe in your life could help, reduce inflammation.
Hmm, wow.
Physical thing from, we'd have to go more into that study, but,
Yeah.
big and the other one is it connects you to other people. Uh,
Ah,
it
okay.
also one of the studies is, you're more generous.
Mm,
Uh, because what that study was, I think they gave people, like, X amount of money, and one of the groups, they showed pictures or had them do some exercise, and they found those people donated more to charity when they were told what to do with they weren't told what to do with the money. The people with awe gave more of their money to charity than the other people.
oh, that is
So,
so cool.
I we can go on. Uh, and I think it just also we just talked about so many negative things in the world, so many things happening, and it kinda takes your mind off of what's happening because you
Mm,
just, like you step back for a moment. You get just like humor, you get a perspective. You
right.
see the world differently. Um, Another study found, like, when you go to the Grand Canyon, what it does is changes your whole perspective of who
Mm,
you are in the world. In a way,
yeah,
it makes shows you how small you are in this enormous, uh, incredible nature, thing. So, it
yeah.
kind of puts us in a different frame of mind
Mhm.
and helps us maybe that's why connect with other people because we see we're just part of this huge, vast universe.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and I know one of the parts in the book, I think there may have been a couple instances where you had people talking about and I've experienced this for myself as well, as being outside at night and looking up at the
Oh
stars
my
and,
god.
and especially when you can get out somewhere where you can actually see more of them, we don't have the other artificial light blocking out some of that, that it really does put you in perspective of just like how infinitesimal we are
Right,
really in the
right,
grand scheme
right,
of things.
right.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
those new pictures that were coming in from, one of the
Oh,
telescopes recently, I mean,
yeah,
it's just it's so vast, and to think that we are just on this one little planet.
yeah, and talking about space, not only I mean, nature's the number one generator of awe, but there's also man-made awe. Like,
Mm.
there are people now living out in space. It's hard to believe. Um, I don't know how many people, but they're planting stuff. They recorded a movie up there. Um, it to me, it's mind-boggling, and, so let me give a little tip to your, listeners. I came up with an acronym for the word awe. AWE is
Mhm.
a wow experience.
Ah, I like that.
So whenever they look at a young baby and look in the eyes and they suddenly have this kind of wow experience, or look at a flower that's quite amazing and that's a wow, oh wow, look at that. They're getting some awe then.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess try to get more some wow
Mhm.
experiences in your life, and you'll know you're getting more awe and wonder.
Absolutely. Uh, you mentioned that you do workshops. So what happens in your workshops? What tell us a little bit about
Um,
that.
well, for years, as I think you mentioned, I was the Jollytologist, and did therapeutic humor workshops, and
Oh, okay.
anything from 45-minute keynote speeches to all day.
Uh,
With COVID, all day workshops and things have changed. I have done online virtual workshops with awe and wonder, and various things happen. Like I try to give the group an exercise every week. So, go out and find something that awes you. Look for a face in an odd place, like in the branch of a tree, or I
mm,
collect those. um, because it's like training me to look closer. So
mm,
that was another exercise, look closer. I remember several years ago, I was in Amsterdam at tulip time, and
mm,
there's a park there, Keukenhof Gardens. They plant 7 million bulbs every year. Most of them tulips. 7 million. I mean, you just walk in and you're awed by it. But I saw one tulip I loved. It kind of was awed because of the colors and the shapes. And then I looked closer and I looked inside and it was totally different colors.
mm,
So one of my tips of finding more awe in your life is to look closer because we don't always see, things. Well, we see things, from a distance, but as we get closer, we may see like a bug. Look at a bug closer and look at sometimes the color of an insect or the way it moves or the shape is just, to me, a miracle. It's all incredible.
mm.
So look closer.
Yeah, I like that. And also from my experience, sometimes it really is the simple things. For instance, I'm I'm in awe of my cat because he has been very demonstrative lately of really wanting me to play with him. And so I have this little it actually was like a foam curler that I have attached to a shoelace, and he will actually fetch it and he will bring it to me whatever room I'm in, and he's like, it's time. You need to play with me right now. And it just is and to me that's awe inspiring because it's like he's smart enough. I mean, it's like he's part dog or something that he will go and retrieve it and bring it to me and say, "Okay, I need your attention." It's like
Yeah,
having a
yeah.
two-year-old in the house.
Yeah, animals, pets I have a dog, I've had a dog. A previous dog, I was watching tennis on TV and he was watching with me, the ball was going back and forth, and then the ball went off the screen and he went behind the TV to see to see where the ball went. Amazing, just
Mhm.
amazing.
I know, I love it. Um, what are you curious about right now?
Well, interesting that you mentioned that. 2 things, I guess. One is I took, a class on how to write your life story.
Mm.
What is that? Memoir, I guess?
Mhm.
And it's not something I'm interested, but when I start thinking about excuse me, when I start thinking about my life, I thought about all of these interesting, funny, heartwarming stories. So I've started to write that. I try to write one a week. And I thought, well, I don't have that many. And every time I just wrote down a note that there's 3 more stories I want to write about. And so that may be a book, it may not. So my interest is now to put all that down on paper. Like if it doesn't get published, at least my family will see it. And the other thing is this is called the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. And they have a call for proposals for workshops for next year. And
Mm.
just this week, I thought, maybe I'll do a workshop on the connection between humor and awe.
Mm. Yeah.
Not that awe moments are humorous, but there are connections like both give you perspective.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. I start doing a list. So it's up here in my head. That's what I'm curious about. And what I find, the more I put energy and think about stuff, the thing will just flow. It will just keep coming to me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the idea of thinking how humor and awe will combine or well, actually, this is precipitating a question. Can you, because we know you were saying that we can look for things and find awe in things. So can you find awe in something humorous? Is there, I wonder.
Well, I think sometimes we'll go, funny that happened,
Mm,
right? And that could be an all moment, like, excuse me. Um, and some people call this coincidence, but
mhm,
I was hiking in Yosemite once. I was going up a path, another path coming down, and someone going down called over to me, Alan, and I looked at them. I don't know them. I said, "Yeah, I don't recognize you." He said, "I was your apprentice in summer stock. I used to be a scenic designer in summer stock 40 years ago."
oh my gosh.
And I thought,
Ah,
well, that's kind of a funny, how did this happen? And
yeah,
it is an awe moment, right? Because
absolutely.
if I looked away, if he looked away, if I was 30 seconds up the path
Mhm.
and he was, none of that would have happened.
Yeah,
So there's a little connection, not a great big one, but
yeah.
often we'll go, "Fun, that's a funny thing that happened to me."
Mhm.
And it's also an all moment.
Yeah. And that was one thing that I know you did talk about a bit in the book is those synchronicities and coincidences and things that really can be awe moments. Because I know I experienced that myself when I got the idea to write my book, and then later that morning that I saw an email from Hay House and they were offering a writer's boot camp to teach you how to write a book. So I'm like,
Uh,
okay, yep, I guess I really do need to learn how to write a book.
yeah.
So I
And,
love.
and those things, again, I had a funny, how did this happen? Last week, I was at a concert in a winery with a wine tasting before, and there was this incredibly beautiful woman in a bright yellow pantsuit. And I had to go over to her because she also had a purple purse and magenta lipstick, and she just was like glowing. She was like a sunflower in the field of grapes, the grapevines. Told her how stunning she looked, how fabulous. Little did I know, because she wasn't on the program, she was called up to the stage. She was an entertainer, part of the program, to sing 4 songs. And I was blown away because here I had no idea she was part of the program. She wasn't listed. She has been on Broadway. I'm a big Broadway fan, and it was like funny. How did this happen? So
Yeah, I love that. Um, is there anything I should have asked you about with regards to awe that I didn't, or any other last things that you think our audience should know
um,
about?
well, I think just people will go, how do I get more of it in my life? When we talked
Mm,
about, just want to review intention, look
yeah,
closer, be around children, I think, too. We didn't talk about that, but
that's true.
they are just, they look closer at everything. The box the toy came in is the toy itself. And
Mhm.
uh, so, yeah, those are some things. The other thing is that, um, not humor, awe is often in the eyes of the beholder.
Mm,
There was a prisoner getting out of prison who wanted to know what he's gonna, what is he looking forward to when he gets out of prison, and he said, opening the refrigerator.
mm,
And for him, that was awe. The awe thing. He hadn't opened a refrigerator in 10 years while he was in prison and get a cold glass of water, an apple, or something. So awe, wonder is often in the eyes of the beholder. So not, just because someone else sees the awe in something, you may not, or you may see it in something they don't.
Mm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good point to bring up because we are all unique people and we all bring our own perspective to things. We have our own life experiences
Right, right.
and and I think it's good not to judge people about that, as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
One other thing, if we're closing, I'd like to close with an Einstein quote.
Oh,
Is
yes.
that all right?
Oh, please do.
Yeah, he said there are two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle.
Mm.
Mhm. Which it
Um,
is.
yes, that's for sure. And when we can do that, I think we really it does make things go so much smoother in our lives, and we are able to, yeah, to look for the miracles and to expect them, then we'll get them.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um
I have a friend who says I live a charmed life, and I was thinking the other day, it could be because I call them mini miracles
Mhm.
happen, like the woman with the yellow dress,
Right.
entertainer. To me, that was a mini miracle. So I expect mini miracles in my life every day, and they seem to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna circle back to intention. I was in a workshop one time and we were instructed to set an intention to see something. So I set an intention to see a yellow rose. And then we took a dinner break. I went out to dinner with some friends, and wouldn't you know it, on the table was a vase with a yellow rose.
Uh, I know wasn't your workshop, but I took another one where every day they would give us a prompt,
Mhm.
and one day it was to find everything heart-shaped.
Oh,
And I had
okay.
planted some morning glories around my front gate, and I walk in and out every day, walking the dog 3 times a day, and so I never realized those leaves were heart-shaped until I got
Oh,
that prompt.
wow. Yeah.
So,
So
and yeah.
you need to look for it and look all around you because there's definitely ways to find awe. So
Right, right.
yeah. Um, if someone listening to you wants to learn more about you or maybe find your books, where is the best place for people to connect with you?
Well, any, book site like Amazon or elsewhere or their local bookstore could, order it. If they wanna go to my website, it's www.allenklein.com. They'd have to spell it right under my name there. You can spell both names differently. And if they wanna write to me, allen@allenklein.com, I'd love to hear from them.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much for spending your morning with us because I know you're out in California, so it's early for you,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
appreciate you starting your day with us today.
Thank you.
And
It's been great. I loved it.
and I also want to thank all of you for listening and for watching. I really appreciate you as well. And in closing, I will what's the word I want to look for? Invite you. Let's put it that way. I invite you today to go out today and every day and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.